Howdy everybody, welcome back. We are going to do some more RPG horror stories today. Let's jump into our first story. Okay, our first story is going to be from user Dicer the Jester and is titled GM Surprised and Shocked When Dark Heresy Players Are All Pro-Imperium. This is going to be a fun one. I have managed to get into a Dark Heresy 2nd edition game with a group of new players and a new GM. We set up a Discord server and work on our characters, a ragtag bunch of misfits from all different kinds of worlds that are unified in their quest to burn the filthy Xenos and all Xeno lovers. Or so we thought that was the plan, because that's how the GM described the game. We all make our characters, the details are unimportant other than we are 100% loyal to the Imperium, kind of a requirement if you want to work for an Inquisitor. For those unaware, Dark Heresy is a TTRPG system set in the Warhammer 40k universe, a grim dark sci-fi universe where the entire galaxy is just constantly at war between a bunch of different human and alien factions. Xenophobia, fascism, religious zealotry, kind of etc. are to be expected in this setting. In this system, the players are all acolytes that work for an Inquisitor. Inquisitors are almost like a secret police / investigative force for the Imperium of Man, a fascist, xenophobic empire that believes the Emperor of Man, who resides encased on a golden throne, is in fact a god. An Inquisitor could have you investigating traitors to the Imperium, alien enemies, also known as Xenos, or even demonic or chaos cults. A whole gambit of potential enemies for you to potentially fight. Please note that Warhammer 40k is meant to be a parody where there are no good guys. It's just different flavors of bad guy. Don't get it twisted. There are no, you're not supposed to look at the Imperium of Man and go, ah, yes, fascists, religious zealots, a beacon of hope and something to look up to. That's not how it is at all. Please don't get that twisted. Don't think that. The GM promised a long campaign, so we all got hyped and work on our backstories. We send them to a GM, and soon enough, we are on our first assignment. We are to infiltrate a mansion of nobles that had a reputation of living saints who claim they use their ordained holy bloodlines, blessing to heal the disabled, sick, and even mutated. Mutated are a thing in this as well. Humans throughout time in the 40k universe have been gene spliced to make them better at certain things, or just stuff happens as you evolve, I guess, through time. And it's 40,000 years is the timeline here. So right now we're in the 2000s. This is 38,000 years in the future. So and by mutated, it could be anything from Ogrin, which are super big and massive. It could be, they have cat boys and cat girls, if that's your thing. They do kind of have quasi furries. There's a group, they're called Neko or something like that. It's very on the nose in the 40k universe. There's groups of mutated humans that are goat people, kind of. There's all different kinds of mutations to basically make humans fit in various environments and planets, or to make them really good at something. Ogrin are mega stupid, but they're also 9 feet tall and built like a shit brick house. So, continuing though, our Inquisitor says that surely there is something foul going on, as the priesthood never officially recognized those deeds as miracles, and also Adeptus Mechanicus, which is an Imperium faction that are kind of technophile monks, has detected unnatural energy spikes in that area, one that is similar to what Tau, which is an alien faction, kind of think the Covenant from Halo and Gundam, because they have a lot of mechs in their arsenal. To what Tau equipment is known for producing. On the briefing, we are all nodding along, cursing these fools and saying how they are traitors to humanity. Our team preacher, armed with a heavy flamer, asks if there's going to be a problem if we execute them all, or if we are expected to put them on the trial. I have a feeling English isn't maybe their first language. No, ask no questions, kill them all. All, the adults and children too. We go there, we go in guns blazing, even after GM numerous times said that nobles sent an envoy to invite us for a diplomatic meeting where we discuss things as they really are. We respond by setting the envoy on fire. We then burst in and shoot all and every one of the nobles and servants, all of whom are non-combatants and just spend their turns begging for mercy. Classic, we say as we continue to commit a sanctioned mass murder. Then we go to the basement and see a Tau standing behind the techno-heresy machine. Wait, please, let's talk. The Imperium is lying to you. We didn't wait. One rocket launcher later, Tau is a splatter of gore. We also destroyed the accursed techno-heresy. Then we set the mansion on fire. Okay, I know what some of you are thinking here. Some of you might be thinking, wow, these players are murder hobos. And normally I would agree with you. But The GM gave orders in the form of an NPC that said, kill them all. And to put some context here, this tracks for 40k. The Dark Heresy novel series has a quote from it, and that quote goes, "Innocence proves nothing." While the town in the basement might be a plea to a normal RPG group that something is off and that this could be a potential plot thread, in 40k, a world where humans are shown so much propaganda, especially ones that are serving an Inquisitor of all people, that they believe the Xeno are nothing but monsters, it tracks that they would not question an order to murder traitors of the Imperium that are working with a, quote, foul Xenos creature. As we exit the burning mansion, we are met by a crowd of sick and slightly mutated peasants that protest and call us monsters, saying we doomed them all. We tell them we are the will of the Emperor. The crowd goes on to say how much the Imperium sucks. They are all right, and we as players agree that the Imperium sucks, but our characters didn't. We answer with flame and bullets and chain blades. Again, this tracks for 40k. The players themselves should see the Imperium as a horrible entity. As PCs, they are likely to see it different. This entire group of people is declaring their god, the Emperor of mankind, and the empire he helped build to be horrendous. Of course, a bunch of dogmatic, xenophobic lackeys for an Inquisitor are going to want to destroy this threat to their god and their empire. We report to the Inquisitor. GM ends the game saying we ruined everything by being, quote, Imperium Glazers and not betraying the Inquisition. He says the entire campaign was supposed to be us siding with the Tau and liberating the world after we realize how wicked the Inquisition is. We are told we are shitty players and a bunch of murder hobos, and he calls us all dogmatic R-word, whatever that is supposed to mean. Okay, this sounds like a communication breakdown here between player and GM. The GM should have given each player the opportunity to create a plot thread or backstory bit that would give them a reason to question or turn on the Imperium. If your campaign relies on your players making a very specific choice that goes against what the initial quest they are given is, you need to communicate that. In this situation, the GM okayed a bunch of PCs that were very dogmatic for the Imperium. They should not be surprised when given a quest to eliminate enemies of the Imperium that they in fact do that. If you're wanting your players to betray the faction they are with, you need to communicate that. It's okay to spoil that ahead of time. Just let them know, hey, for this campaign, I want you to make acolytes that are going to follow Inquisitor, but I want you to give all of them at least one reason to question or perhaps turn on the Imperium. This campaign is going to be one where you, the PCs, are actually fighting against the Imperium of Man. Your players will then know, hey, we're going to betray the Imperium at some point and not, not question anything. Because the way it looks to me here, they were being good players and going along with it. If you are talking to your NPCs, your quest giver NPC, in a system where you are playing acolytes to an Inquisitor, so the person giving the quest is more than likely the Inquisitor themselves, and they say, hey, lackeys, I need you to go out and do this thing. And your PCs, RP-wise, are very much like, yes, sir. They're going to go, yes, sir, and go do that. And they're being good players by doing that. And this GM is kind of like annoyed that they didn't do the opposite of it. A little weird. Not sure why out of all systems to try this kind of thing, he chooses one where all players are expected to be above average in loyalty. Or why he never made it clear what his intent was. Lesson of the day, communicate with your players and don't try to pull off a Trojan horse campaign, especially not like this. Okay, if the GM wanted to maybe make it easier to have a 40k system where they betray the Imperium, Rogue Trader, and I don't mean traitor as in like traitorous, Rogue Trader may have been a better option. Rogue Trader, as in somebody who trades goods, has you working with a Rogue Trader, a human ship captain that explores the universe for profit and sometimes does things that might go against the Imperium, to broadly sum things up. There are Rogue Traders in the Warhammer universe that go, well, rogue, and focus more on profit over the wants and needs of the Imperium. This could create a situation where your players are actively trying to maybe hide their plans to thwart the Imperium while they're being investigated by said Imperium, because the Imperium, by nature, very fascist, very controlling, loves to investigate potential traitors, so it would be a really interesting plot point. So maybe that system would have worked better. Our next story is going to be from user Toxic Casual, titled "Player Says I'm Allowed to Cheat Because My Character is a Wizard." We're going to use that voice again. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. I run a D&D campaign with some friends I have known for a long time. It's a small group, 3 regular players with some occasional guest players. The campaign is well into year 2, homebrew setting, but fairly strict to 5e rules. I put out a, quote, primer at the beginning of the campaign, allowing 1 or 2 small things from Critical Role. In the statement, quote, "Well-established homebrew settings, items/spells such as from Critical Role must be approved by DM beforehand. Do not show up with a subclass I have no book for the day that you level." Actually pretty good rules. Enter the player. This player is a good friend of mine. He runs some other games that I'm a part of. I would never go so far to say that he's a, quote, problem player, but he has some tendencies that make him difficult to manage and entertain. He has a bit of a, quote, epic main character complex. If the player isn't overpowered and winning, then he gets frustrated and uninterested. At times he forgets that the purpose of D&D is to experience the story, not to win at D&D. We have butted heads several times on balance issues, and the player will tie up my time and hold up the game until I decide to make his wizard more powerful. The previous one was about comparing his wizard's blade scening with the druid's wild shape. I explained to him in simple terms that while magical in nature, neither one of them is the result of a spell. Therefore, dispel magic would not affect either of them. They argued and took up half an hour of our already short 3-hour playtime that druid wild shape should be affected by dispel magic, but not blade scening. Don't get started with me. I know. First things first, these type of players can suck. Sometimes you kind of need to lay down the law and let a player know, hey, we'll talk about this later. For now, we are proceeding this way. We can talk after session about this if you'd like. If they proceed, let them know their time to talk is over and we're continuing. Sometimes you just gotta just steamroll over these people. Some players need to realize that this is a group game and it's not all about them. Also, dispel magic. I'm not going to say this DM interpreted it wrong or anything like that. Dispel magic does not require it to be the result of a spell. It could be a magical effect too or something like that. So dispel magic maybe in your setting could negate the effects of blade scening or wild shape. Or if you didn't want to fuck your players over, you just say it doesn't, because that would kind of screw them over and it's not a ton of fun. But I feel like that's open to interpretation. It's how you, the DM, GM, whatever, want to interpret it. The latest one that has me fuming was a petition to allow Widowghast transmogrification from Critical Role. I read it carefully, considering the advantages and drawbacks, and made my judgment. The player said that for roleplay purposes, he'd like his human wizard to change into an elf. I explained that per the spell's description, he would lose human traits and gain elf traits. That means his character would lose his free human feet and scalp. That was the point of conflict. Player insisted that there's no way race change could cause you to, quote, lose knowledge. I countered with 2 points. First, he claimed that this was for roleplay purposes, so why is he getting hung up on the mechanics? Second, this causes balance issues. Once per game year, you could just change races and collect traits, which is practically cheating. I'm not even in this game myself, and I'm kind of tired of this problem player. I'm going to call him problem player. I know OP doesn't refer to them as problem player. They're a problem player. They are clearly trying to game the system and just kind of gain free advantages. The player's mask slipped off at this point. His response was, "Yeah, it's cheating. It's called magic. Magic is cheats. With enough magic, I should be able to do just about anything." At this point, I was frustrated and just wanted to move on, so I offered this. Either use the spell as intended and as described, or use it purely cosmetically. Your character casts a spell and becomes an elf in appearance only, but permanently. Cannot be dispelled. No other traits change. Just for the sake of my sanity. The player refused. I abruptly ended the conversation, and that's where we're at. I kind of don't want to DM anymore. I'm not looking forward to the next game. I kind of want to kick him out, but then his spouse will quit as well, and the game will fall apart. Basically, if I want to continue playing, I have to give the player what he wants every time he feels like he's, quote, not winning. Okay. OP does not have to give the player what they want. They can either take it or leave it. If this rips apart the table, to be honest, that's probably for the best. Problem player will just continue to make problems if you give them an inch. Magic is not cheating. There are limits to magic. In many D&D systems, there is a reason spells only go up to 9th level, because the magic required to cast them is either too great or too powerful. It could potentially harm the spellcaster, or potentially even because gods can only cast above 9th level in some systems, but don't quote me on that. If OP decides to stop the campaign, people will want to know why, and then you'll have to explain that problem player is being a problem, which can cause an argument or You could just lay out to problem player that you are the GM, you make up the rules. Tell them, if you don't like what has been decided, you can choose not to do it. You could play a different PC, or just not play at all. To be honest, at a certain point, no D&D is better than bad D&D. This is going to turn into bad D&D. Ugh. Okay, before we jump on our last story, I would like to let you guys know I stream on Twitch. Links are in the description. Please check me out. I would love it. Well, let's jump onto that last story. Alrighty, our last story is going to be from user Tertiary Travis and is titled DM Overusing AI. Okay, I'll try to keep this brief, but I will undoubtedly fail. I'm currently playing in a game where the DM uses AI extensively. NPC responses, narrative bits, coming up with side quests on the fly, or more recently, telling us what our characters are doing and saying. It all bothers me a little, but taking player agency away is quite aggravating. The NPC responses of narrative portions are generally 1 to 2 paragraphs in length, at least, and bog the game down with over-explanation and over-the-top hyperbole. Everything thrums with resonance, is cloaked in the dust of bad memories, or burns with a power long faded, etc., etc. Everything is a riddle inside an enigma wrapped in a mystery. Basically, it all just ends up as a big nothing burger because if everything is super important and fantastical, then nothing is. I just tune out whenever he starts explaining anything. Okay, if you're at a point where your players are tuning out, that's really not a good thing, especially if they're normally very astute and they kind of listen a lot. I can understand wanting to use AI to maybe help you expand your vocabulary and help give descriptions of a scene or something like that. If I'm going to read from a script to describe things, I will often use a thesaurus to help expand my word bank, as I have a tendency to very often I repeat a lot of words. I don't have the biggest bank of words I work from, so I often end up repeating things over and over again. So sometimes I'll try to use a thesaurus to expand that to get more descriptive and fancier words. To use AI to describe everything, including player actions, has to bog the entire game down as you wait for ChatGPT to write out and then modify things. For me personally, I wouldn't use AI to help build the world or quests, etc. I enjoy DMing because it allows me to create things, be it a world or quests, NPCs, town names, lore, whatever. I might use resources to help give names or generate items for a shop and stuff, but the overall content I feel should be created by the DM or come from some sort of setting book. I can understand the want to use AI, especially as a newer DM, because it can be daunting trying to figure out an entire world or setting. But part of the learning experience and the fun, personally to me, is getting to create, and you should create. Continuing, with running player responses and actions, we'll RP something between ourselves and he'll completely retcon it or at least tack on how he wanted us to play it out with whatever the AI tells him we said and did. Last week, another player and I were role-playing a disagreement, which wasn't anything Oscar-worthy, but it was fine. Apparently, per the DM and his AI, my character needed to make an impassioned speech about pain and stuff. It was very frustrating. I'm not looking for advice necessarily, as the standard route of just talking to the DM won't work because we've tried and it appears he genuinely doesn't give a rat's ass what anyone thinks, and would likely be a waste of time. I'm most likely going to end up leaving the table. I'm just here to bitch and moan about it. If any current or future DMs are considering using AI in this way for the sake of your players, please don't. That is all. Update. I left the game. I was already heavily leaning that way, but the responses here helped vindicate my feelings about it. Thanks everyone for the help with that last little push. I'm glad that OP left. That table sounded kind of bad. Not even talking about the AI. If your DM will not listen to any feedback or concerns you have, you need to be worried. TTRPGs are meant to be a group collaborative experience. This means you talk about likes, dislikes, issues, etc., and work to make things fun for everyone. So this table was bound to have some issues, even if the AI use was not the problem. To speak on AI use in TTRPGs, I think the use of AI could be both good and bad, depending on how you use it personally. If you're using it as extensively as the DM was, I think you're going to run into trouble and you're overusing it. If you're using it to perhaps give a prompt for a quest or setting because you don't have the experience creating quests or settings, it could work. In a pinch, I guess, if you need it, but don't over-rely on it. I think if you're doing a home game and need some art, I think AI can, again, help in a pinch. I personally try not to use AI art, but sometimes I can't find something for a token and I've used it. I have. And sometimes commissioning is out of the question as I need it right then and there on the fly. If you're doing a game where you're being paid to play or are streaming it for a wider audience, you should never use AI. Use your own creativity and commission any art that needs to be made. It's a weird line I have, but for me, AI should not be used in situations where you're looking to profit monetarily. I kind of have to ask on this situation. I'm really curious. What are your thoughts on the use of AI in TTRPGs? I think in limited at-home settings, it can be okay, but I think it's a very thin line that we all need to be aware of. But I would love to know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the use of AI, both in like a personal at-home setting, where it's just you and friends or people you're at a table with, it's just for you guys? Also, what do you think of the use of AI in maybe more grandiose settings? Like there has been some controversy as of recent that WotC, Wizards of the Coast, has been potentially using AI for artwork and some stuff in some of their supplemental books. I would be really interested to see what both of your opinions are on both of those topics. That being said, thank you for hanging out, everyone. That's going to be it for today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and catch me on Twitch. Please let me know what your thoughts were on any of these stories, especially the use of AI. That's going to be getting bigger over the years, and I would love to see what y'all think about it. On that, though, I will see you guys all in the next one. Have a good one.